Hey everyone, welcome back to Div and Design. Today we're going to build a really cool modern calculator using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I'll be coding live with you step by step and I'll explain everything in detail. So grab your editor, follow along, and by the end of this video, you have a fully working calculator like the one that's displayed in the web browser. Now, first things we're going to do is to create our folders, and we're going to be creating the calculator folder. So you create the folder and then you just name it calculator. Now we move into our text editor and we open the folder. Okay, so we open the folder and then we create three files. One is going to be for our HTML, one for CSS, and the other for JavaScript. So we create the file for HTML and we name it index.html. And then we create the one for the CSS and name it style.css. Then we create the one for JavaScript and name it script.js. We'll start by creating the structure of our calculator in HTML. Think of this as the skeleton of the project. We need an input field at the top where the calculations will be displayed, and then a grid of numbers of buttons rather for numbers, operators, and special functions like clear and delete. So we're making the div that will contain the calculator and we'll give it a class name as calculator. Before we do that, we have to link our style sheet to our HTML page by using link, the link tag. So we link the JavaScript at the bottom of the page using script.js. Then you script, then the source to be script.js. So we're putting it at the bottom of the page so that the JavaScript can run after the HTML page has loaded and it doesn't create any complications. So let's start with HTML. So we create the first div, which the class of calculator will be assigned to it. And then it's inside that div that all the other elements will fall in. Now we create an input with the ID display that will show the values. And just type the text, then the ID will be displayed. Now we're going to be disabling the input field so that you cannot directly type into the input field. But the only way you should be able to put information there is by clicking the buttons. Now we're going to be creating the div for the buttons and we'll give it a class name as buttons. Well, first of all, we create a div that will hold all the buttons and we'll give that the class name of button. Then we create all the other subordinating button tags inside that div. So we're going to get this from Google because I don't seem to have it on my keyboard. So you can just go to Google and search maybe 6 divided by 3, and then you see the calculator and then you just do 6 divided by 10. Then you just that, copy that division sign. Yeah, 2 divided by 3. You get that. Yeah, so we just paste it back in our code. The next button, we're going to be starting with our numbers. So the first button we're going to add is number 7, because to give it that, calculator look, that calculator arrangement. So we start with the number 7 button. Then we're going to go from 7, 8, 9, you know, and then we'll just keep going. So this is a very basic calculator. You can get the source code from CodePen. It's in the description below. Yeah, very, just get when you enter the link, you see the HTML, you paste, you can copy it and paste it in your index.html. Then you get the CSS from the CSS portion in the CodePen, and then you also paste that in your CSS file, and then you get the JavaScript and do the same. Now we're going to be giving our I'm going to be giving the delete button a different class because we want to style it, should I say, separately. We just want to assign a little bit of a different style to it. So we give it a class of delete so we can call that delete class later on. So the equals button is meant to be under, it's going to be the last button. Yeah, so when you click on the equals button, you calculate your results. Okay, so we're going to be checking the HTML, so just copy the part and then paste it in the browser. And now you can see all the buttons are displaying. Yeah. Now we're going to style these buttons and that display. So to style them, we're going to be using CSS. Okay. Let's make the calculator look modern and stylish. We'll use some gradient backgrounds, glowing effects, and smooth transitions. I've already set up a nice gradient animation for the body background. For the calculator itself, we'll add padding, rounded corners, and a frosted glass effect using backdrop filter. Each button will have hover effects and animation so they feel more interactive. And that equals button will stand out with a colorful animated gradient like the one you saw in our browser earlier to draw attention. So this is our general reset. Margin 0, padding 0, and box size and border box. Now for the body, we're giving the body a general style. Now margin 0. So we're going to be giving a display flex. Yeah, so we use display flex because it's a property that turns an element into a flex container, enabling its direct children to become flex items. The core purpose of the flex box layout, short for flexible box layout, is to provide a more efficient way to lay out, align, and distribute space among items in a container, even when their sizes are unknown or dynamic. It's one dimensional layout system, meaning it works with a singular axis at a time, either a row or a column. So this is we're doing the background, we're doing the linear gradient. So we want it to be around 45 degrees. So we are giving the first color. Everything's going to be around, it's going to be purplish, for a smooth gradient, so nothing too far off from the other. So we're going to be using about 4 to 5 colors for the background. Yeah. So we're going to give it background size cover. So it's going to be 400% by 400%. Now let's style the animation. So we want the colors to seem to be in motion. So we're going to do that with using animation. Yeah, so the animation is going to ease. Now the animation iteration counts, which is how many times the animation should run, is going to be infinite. We're going to give it infinite because we want it to be continuous. Now let's get a font from Google. We're going to be using Google Fonts, and I want to use ShareTech Mono, so I'm going to be getting the embed code from Google Fonts and placing it. So you just search for ShareTech Mono, okay, and then you click on it, and then you get fonts. Yeah, so you don't need to download this, you just get embed code. If you're downloading it for applications like PowerPoint and the rest, so you just copy the code. Yeah, so you just link it to your HTML under your style.css. You're going to place that link. So you just call out the font family, ShareTech Mono, comma monospace. Now that's it for your fonts. So the fonts in our page have been changed to ShareTech Mono. Now for the background animation, we're going to be using art keyframes. So then we call out the animation name gradients BG, which we Yeah, so for the keyframes, we use zero, we use percentage. So from 0%, background position should be 0%, 50%. Now 50% background position should be 100%, 50%. And then at 100%, background position should be 0%, 50%. Now just to be safe, we're going to call out body, button, input, and text area and still declare the font family so that no one can have a different font. Now to give this calculator, give our body a little bit of responsiveness so that it doesn't mess up on smaller screens, we're going to be using the Art Media query. So we just screen and max width. Now the body should have a spacing of, which is the padding of 20 px. Now we're done styling the body, so we style the calculator. Now the padding is just for space, then the width 320 pixels, then the max width, it shouldn't exceed that 90 VW. Okay, so the background for the calculator, so you want that's 0.000 points. That's like for the transparency effect. Okay, now box shadow around the sides, 0, 0, 30 px. Now the color of the shadow, you have to style that. We're going to be using RGBA 128, 0, 255, and 0.2. So the shadow can like glow a bit. Yeah, so we just do the second one, 0, 0. For the shadow, 0, 0, 10 px. RGBA 128, 0, 255, 0.2. So that needs to be around it. So we're giving for like different sides of the calculator. Next, we do 0, 10 px, 30 pixels. Mistake, 30 pixels, not 30 pyx. That was a mistake. Now, RGBA, so that should be 0, 0, and 0.5. Okay, so next we're going to be adding border radius for the calculators, the edges, so we have some soft edges and the edges are not too sharp. So we just want it to be 20 px. Yeah. So we have the display flex, the flex direction column. So that flex direction is to show that we want the elements to be arranged in the columns. Okay, so we're going to be calling the display. We want to start the display. So since we gave it a hashtag display, we now since the ID is display, not class, to call that out, we're using hashtag instead of the dots display. So hashtag display. So we want the font size rather to be 2 rem. So we want the border radius to be 15 px. We give it a padding of 20 px. And now we want the text to align to the right like a real calculator. You know how the text from a calculator is from the right. Word break, word wrap rather on the word. We want to break the words apart. So we don't want the numbers and everything to be so conjoined. Now we give it a minimum height of 80 px and then margin bottom as the space on the display from the bottom to be 20 pixels and then no border overflow hidden. Now given it a transition, we want it to that's the name. So we want the transition to be a transform. Now the animation duration should be zero point 0.6 seconds and animation type should ease. Now that's going to be all for display. You can get this code from you can get the source code from the link in the description below from CodePen. So just get the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. So the padding top should be zero, and then left zero. So sorry, left should be minus 60%. The width of the display should be 60%. The height should be 100%. And then we don't need that background. Now the border radius should be 15 px and transition should be transform 0.6 seconds is. Okay, so we're going to give it its own background, a linear gradient, which should span around 120 degrees. Okay, so that should be 0%. Then that should be 50%. Next should be RGB. RGB 255, 255, 255, and 0, 100%. Now transform the skew on the Y on the x axis at minus 25 degrees. Now I want the animation. So the name of this animation should be silver wave. That's a little bit of like a silver display on it. Now the animation iteration count should be infinite and it should ease in out. Okay, we don't want any pointer events, so we say pointer events none. Z index one. No, it's time. Now we don't want the display, so it's time to style the buttons. So we're styling all the buttons first. So display grid, and now we want four buttons per column. Yeah, we give that class buttons. Now that was the buttons. Now it's time to style the buttons themselves. The ones with button tag. The button tags. So to do that, we just call out button. There's no need to say dot or hashtag since that is a registered element in the text editor. You just say button. And then you give it position relative, overflow hidden, then padding 20 pixels. We don't want any border, so we say border none. Now we want the cursor to be pointed so that once your cursor is over that, it should be turned to change to transform to a pointer. I want the color of the text to be white, so we're giving the buttons a background. So the font size should be 1.2 rem. Now for the transition. Now this CSS applies to every single button. As long as that tag is but the button tag, every single button is going to be styled this way. Now the animation duration is 0.6 seconds. Then it should ease. Now we're styling the button on hover. So what do you want to happen when that button is hovered on? Now when the button is hovered on, we want the background to change. Now we want it to transform. So we want to like sort of raise on the y-axis, so it should like raise going up by -5 pixels. Now the box shadow should be 0, 10, 20 pixels. Now we give it RGB. Now for the buttons that we gave specific class to, which are the equals button and the delete button, we're going to be styling them separately because we want to give them a bit of a unique look. Yeah, so first of all, we start by styling the equals to button. Now to call out these buttons, we do button.equal. So the button is the tag name, and then equal is the class name given to that particular tag. So button dot equal. Okay, now we want the color to change. The color of the text is changed to hashtag FCAF50. Now the font weight should be bold. Now we're not done styling the equals button. That's just a secondary style. We'll soon go over to the primary style for the button. That's which is the main style. Now let's just style this on hover. No, sorry. Firstly, we'll style the button dot delete before we style the button dot equal on hover. Um, the background of the delete button should be that, and then the color of the text should be white. Okay, so we want that to be okay. Now, for the delete button, we want it to span over two spaces, so it should take up the space that two buttons will normally take. Now, that's for the grid column. Now, button active, which is when the button is clicked, it's it should transform, it should scale 0.95. Now, the for the primary styles of the equal button, that's what we are on now, button dot equal. So the color should be white smoke, which is the color of the text, should be white smoke. Now the font weight should be bold. Then the font size, the clear font size, which should be 1.2 rem. Now, next is the grid column. We want it to span four. So we want it to take up the space of four buttons. We want to take up the space of four columns. Now for the background, should be a linear gradient, which is that purple thing you saw moving earlier. Now these are the colors we're using. First color we're using is hashtag 6A0DAD. Next color is hashtag 8A2BEC. All of these colors we're using are around purple, so we don't have anything too far off. Now the last color is hashtag C7158. Sorry, that's second to last. Now the second to last color is hashtag 8A2BEC. And finally, the last color is hashtag 6A0DAD, which is what we started with. Now the background size should be 400% by 400%. So we give the animation a name, which is button gradient. Okay, the cursor should be pointing to our next transition. It should transform. So we use add keyframes for the animation. Yeah. Now the button dot equal hover. What should happen when you hover on the equals button? Now the animation duration for that should be 2 seconds. So the speed of the animation should increase once it's hovered. Okay, so the box should have a shadow. Okay, so we refreshed our page and we can see that the style is actually working. But if if you try and click on buttons, it won't work because we haven't added our JavaScript. So let me just confirm something real quick. Let's try something. Just checking out the transition to make sure everything is correct. Now let's test and see if we give the transition for the equals button to the regular button. Let's see whether it will work. I had the doubts. Yeah. Okay, so it still works, but let's just take it back. Okay, so let's refresh that. Let's check it one more time. Okay, so that's the CSS. But if you try clicking, nothing is actually working because we haven't added the JavaScript, and it's JavaScript. Uh, Now it's time to add the JavaScript, which is our last step in order to enable the buttons to be clickable. And once you click, it should take the once you click, it should take the information to the display. Now, firstly, we're going to be assigning a variable which is let display equals to document.get elements by ID. Now the function, so the function name is append to display. Then we put in the value of whatever we are appending to display inside those brackets. That's why you see value there. Now display dot value. Okay, so grabbing the display using document get element by ID. Now this gives us access to the input box so we can change its value with JavaScript. The next function we did was append to display bracket value. This simply takes whatever value we click on, like a number or operator and adds it to the display. So if we click 7, it adds 7. If we click plus, it adds plus. Simple. Then we have the clear display. This resets the display to an empty string. That's why there's nothing in that quotation right there. So whenever we click C, the calculator is wiped clean. Okay, as I was saying. So whenever we click the C, the calculator is wiped clean and ready for a new calculation. Now, delete last function. This one is handy if you make a mistake. It takes the current display value and slices off the last character. That's why it is equals to display dot slice minus 1, 0 comma minus 1. Now, so if you typed 123 but wanted 12, hitting delete removes just the last number. You can see the various functions. That's the clear display function. Now that's delete last function. Now this function for calculate result, this is the brain of the calculator. It takes the expression in the display and uses JavaScript built-in eval function to solve it. So if we typed 5 plus 5 and hit equals, eval turns that into 10. But what if there's an error? Like someone types plus plus or something invalid. Wrap eval inside a try catch block. If there's an error, we set the display to error so that the calculator doesn't break. That's all the JavaScript with these four functions. Your calculator can take inputs, clear them, delete mistakes, and calculate results. Now we just add the functions to each and every button. So on click, we add the clear display function for that C, since that's the button that's going to be clearing the display. Now we add the append display to every single button with the value in the brackets. Like you can see the 7, you have the value of the button in the bracket. So where you have 1, you have 1. Now we refresh our page and then we see that it actually works 78 times 3 times 32, 2,496. That's to show that our calculator is fully functional. Equals 254. Now, the brackets, everything works. Now, maybe if you want to use this, you know, calculator to impress your girlfriend, as the way it's purple themed, you can just design it for her. Or girls that like to code, they can pick this up as a project, matching colors. Now to show our eval, as we typed type plus plus, it showed an error. That's the function of the eval. So yeah, this is available. This source code for this is available at Codepen. If for those of us that are interested to get it for maybe our project or something. You can also edit it to suit your taste. So these are JavaScript functions. Delete, close. Okay, so that's it. You just built a beautiful modern calculator with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you found this tutorial helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what project you'd like to see next. Thanks for coding along with me, and I'll see you in the next video. This is also fully responsive. That's why, so it doesn't, mess up on small screens. Thank you for watching.